Hi, I'm Larry Morgan-Thomas, Executive Director of Partnerships for the Department of Communities and Justice. Welcome to this information video about annual accountability for the 2021-2022 financial year. Before we begin, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in New South Wales and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I pay my respects to Aboriginal colleagues who are watching this presentation today. Firstly, thank you for your incredible responsiveness and flexibility over the past year. You've continued to deliver really important services to the community during really difficult times. It's clear that we've all built on our experiences over these pandemic years and yet again risen to the challenge of adapting service delivery while remaining safe and compliant with public health orders. So thank you for your continued commitment to the clients and the communities who need us most. Now, on to the reason we're here today. This year, we're continuing our practice of presenting information about annual accountability in a video rather than a live webinar, as it allows you to watch when it suits you. Obviously, that doesn't give you the opportunity to ask questions, but you can email your questions to us. Contact details are at the end of the video and are also included in the annual accountability pages on our website. Depending on the number and nature of questions we receive, we may add them to the frequently asked questions, the FAQs, we've already published as part of the pack we released to help you with the process. And it's a really important process. Annual accountability is a crucial part of our contract management framework. It assures us that you're providing the services we've contracted you to deliver, so that together we can work towards improving the lives of children, families and communities of New South Wales. And it assures us that your organisation is viable and effective. Without that, we'd be unable to achieve better outcomes for those in need. And what's more, the process enables the department to meet its accountability commitments to the government, to New South Wales taxpayers, and most importantly, to our clients. And on the whole, you're doing a great job. Last year, 97.63% of the contract level performance and risk assessments were rated low or medium. That means only 2.37% were classified as either high or very high risk. This result confirms that most organisations are performing well and meeting their contractual obligations. But the assessments also highlight where there are a couple of risks or issues, enabling us to work together to resolve them. Now, I know that this whole process may be cumbersome and difficult when you're already very busy. So to help make the process as straightforward as possible for you, this presentation gives you an overview of the process, runs you through the resources available to help you, demonstrates how to use the reporting forms in the contracting portal, explains how to report your organisation's income and expenditure, and finally goes through the corporate level declaration and the contract level certification. I'll now hand over to David White, who's going to give you an overview of the process.
Hi, my name is David White and I'm the Manager of the Prudential Oversight Team and Partnerships. I'm going to give you an overview of the annual accountability process, and I'm going to show you the resources that are available to help you complete the process. As you know, annual accountability is a mandatory process. It ensures your organisation is accountable for the funding it receives and the services your organisation agreed to deliver on our behalf. The process is designed to achieve the following four objectives, most of which Larry alluded to in her introduction. Those objectives are to ensure government funds are being used as agreed in contracts, identify any issues affecting your organisation's ability to maintain stable, uninterrupted delivery of services, determine whether your organisation continues to have the capacity and capability to deliver better outcomes for our clients, and to reveal trends and common issues across our programs and the DCJ districts spread across the state. Annual accountability enables us to build a detailed picture of the current capacity and performance of your organisation. This in turn gives us a snapshot of the strength and the viability of the funded services sector. The information captured during the process guides us on how to better support the sector, and it enables us to identify ways to improve and innovate at the program and sector levels. From an individual service provider's perspective, Annual accountability confirms how well an organisation is governed and is financially managed. It also enables us to gauge whether the organisation has the capacity and capability to continue to deliver the agreed services. But most importantly, the annual accountability process assures us and our service partners that the service sector continues to be capable of delivering better outcomes for our clients. I just want to briefly cover the end-to-end process and timeline. Your organisation must submit annual, corporate and contract level accountability documents via the DCJ contracting portal on or before the 31st of October 2022. Once we have received your submissions, our contract managers check them to verify you've reported all the necessary information. In other words, you've answered all the questions on the forms and uploaded all required documents. They then perform a preliminary review and cross-check of the financial information to ensure it's being reported as required and to address any inconsistencies as soon as possible. In addition, they organise recovery of unspent funds if required and review any exceptions in your corporate level declarations and contract level certifications. During this process, our contract managers will contact you if there's an incomplete or missing information on a form, if documents haven't been properly filled in, signed or uploaded, if there's incomplete or inconsistent financial information, for example, figures typed in the contract level accountability form don't match with the figures in the income and expenditure statement you submitted, or if we need to make arrangements with you to recover unspent funds. For the final part of the process, contract managers conduct performance and risk assessments at the corporate and contract levels. This means reviewing service delivery at the contract level and governance at the corporate level, as well as detailed financial analysis of your submission. If it's necessary to contact you because they have questions about the financial reporting, then your contract manager will organise a time with you. Once an assessment is completed, the contract manager's line manager reviews it and accepts it. When that's been done, by 21st of February 2023 in this case, you'll be notified that the process is finished. To summarise, there are two key dates. 31 October 2022, which is the due date for your corporate and contract level submission. The forms for you to do this are available on the contracting portal now. And the other key date is 21st of February 2023, which is when all submissions will have been checked and accepted, unspent funds dealt with, and annual performance and risk assessments completed. Now I want to cover 3 points of note for this year. First, questions about Aboriginal organisations. For the last couple of years, we've included corporate level questions asking whether your organisation identifies as an Aboriginal organisation and on what basis. This year we rephrased the questions based on the recently published explanation on how the department determines whether an organisation is an Aboriginal community-controlled organisation or an Aboriginal provider. It's based on the criteria set nationally for closing the gap. Your answers to these questions are important to assist our reporting on the outcomes for the national agreement on closing the gap. The next important point is about corporate level focus area. In previous years, we've required you to verify your organisation's practices in relation to a set of focus areas. This year, the annual accountability focus area is information security. Back in February 2021, the department notified contracted service providers of its policy for maintaining secure information and notifying us of information security incidents. For this year, DCJ is required to report to the New South Wales Government that the department and its service providers adhere to information security legislation. So the purpose of this focus area is for us to understand your organisation's knowledge and adherence to the DCJ policy for maintaining secure information and notifying us of actual and suspected information security breaches. In addition, we've added a clause to the corporate level declaration regarding your organisation's compliance with the policy. I'll cover that in more detail later. The final point is the DCJ unspent funds policy. Our policy includes exceptions for the financial year. It's fully explained in the guide to reporting annual accountability, as well as on the DCJ website on the new unspent funds policy page. This year, some programs have put in place special conditions for retaining and using unspent funds. For the Targeted Early Intervention Program and Family Connect and Support Program, while service providers may retain unspent funds, they must apply for DCJ's consent prior to committing the funds for how and when they will use them. For domestic and family violence programs and sexual violence programs, service providers must apply for DCJ consent to retain and use unspent funds. If your organisation is contracted to provide any of these services and you want to retain and use the unspent funds, you have to complete and submit an application for consent to do so, and send a completed form and any supporting documents by email directly to your DCJ contract manager before 5 p.m. on the 31st of October 2022. Now, I don't expect you to remember all of that information, so let's look at where you can find it and everything else you need to know about reporting annual accountability. For those of you who have done the annual accountability reporting before, you will know that each year we put together a pack of resources to help you complete the process. We amend the documents based on your feedback, and we try to keep them as straightforward as possible. These documents are available on our website. The reason you Google search page here is that it's the easiest way you can get to the annual accountability information is using the Google search engine. If you type annual accountability in your search box, our content is likely to be in the first item listed in the search results. You'll notice the annual accountability page has several chapters that are numbered at the top of the page. The active chapter is bold, while the other chapters are active hyperlinks. If you're doing annual accountability for the first time, it's worth reading through Chapter 2, the overview of the process, and Chapter 3, the benefits of the annual accountability. If you have done annual accountability before, you'll find the list of resources for this year's processes are in Chapter 5. They're meant to be read in conjunction with your reporting and contracting portal. On this page, links to resources are on the left, and each one is described in the column on the right. The key document is the Guide to Reporting Annual Accountability. This contains everything you need to know about this year's process. It covers the process timeline, what you're required to submit to DCJ, requirements for reporting any additional payments and grants received or responding to COVID-19 and the 2022 floods, this year's arrangements for unspent funds, the information you're required to report in the corporate and contract level forms, and detailed explanations of the fields on the forms so that it is clear what information we require. I want to show you this explanation on the form fields, so I'm going to open the document. We recommend you keep this guide handy while filling in the reporting forms in the contracting portal, which we're going to explain shortly. So in the contents here, you'll see corporate level reporting and contract level reporting. I'll just click on the contract level reporting so I can show you. On the left of this table are the questions and the item labels as they appear in the portal forms. On the right is an explanation of how to respond. We may have included other information here to help explain what we're asking you to provide, and in some cases, why we're asking for it. Now, I want to show you the requirements for reporting indirect contract administration costs. There's a link to it here, but you'll also find that at Chapter 7 of the Annual Accountability webpage. The information on this page clarifies what costs make up indirect contract administration costs, and it explains what you need to know about reporting them as expenses in your contract level accountability. I'll just go back to the resources page now. There's also links here for service provider declaration, for corporate level accountability, an annual accountability certification for contract level accountability. These are very important documents you must fill in, sign, and upload to the contracting portal. You attach them in the designated place in the corporate and contract forms in the portal. I'll explain these documents in more detail a little later. If your organisation doesn't have a standard income and expenditure statement, or would like to know what level of detail we require in the income and expenditure statement, you can use the template that we have provided here. Lastly, I want to show you the new unspent funds policy page, which is Chapter 7. At the top of the page, you can see it contains 3 important pieces of information: the general requirements for unspent funds, the process of returning unspent funds, exceptions to the general requirements for this year. So this section lists where you can retain unspent funds. Scrolling down, you'll see there are special conditions for certain programs. And here you can see the special conditions for TEI and FCS, domestic and family violence, and sexual violence programs. And there's a hyperlink here that takes you to information about applying for consent to retain and use funds for these programs, and a hyperlink to the application form. By the way, all the information on this page is the same as in the guide for reporting annual accountability. We just put it on a web page to make it easier for you to find and refer to. So the website has a lot of information to help you. There's also an FAQ. Even if you've done the process before, it's important to use the resources for this year. Remember that the guide to reporting annual accountability has all the information you need to know. It includes hyperlinks to other documents like the declaration certificate, income and expenditure template, and the web page explaining how to report indirect contract administration costs. Keep it handy while you're filling in the forms in the contracting portal so you can check that you're providing the information we've asked for. I'll now hand over to Heather Kemp, who's going to show you the contracting portal and the annual accountability reporting forms.
Thanks, David. Hi, I'm Heather Kemp from the Systems Funding and Cards team. I'm going to show you how to use the reporting forms in the contracting portal, and I'm also going to explain our requirements for reporting your organisation's income and expenditure. To commence with this, we will log on to the service provider portal of a provider that we no longer fund. This is just a template of a provider where we have simply changed the name of the organisation and have kept some of the information for training purposes. When you first log on to the portal, you are automatically taken to the provider screen. From here, you can scroll down to the acquittals section to find the 2021 accountability for both corporate and the contracts that you have with us. You can also access the accountability templates through the incomplete acquittals menu on the side menu. If you don't see an acquittal template for one or more of your contracts, then please contact your contract manager. In the Help menu, we have provided you with the helpful links to the guides and resources that were discussed earlier. This will provide you with a direct link to all of the resources about the contracting and acquittal information, so you don't have to keep remembering where to find them. From the list of acquittals, you can select which acquittal you would like to work on. When you click on the View button on the right-hand side of the acquittal, you will be taken to the next screen where you will find the actual form that needs to be completed. You will see the date that it's due and the status of the form as well. At this stage, the form is in the status of not started. We will start by looking at the corporate level accountability, and to access the form, we'll click on Edit to start to fill in the information required. We recommend that you save your work as you progress through the questions. First thing you will see are some pre-populated fields with some details about your organisation. As we go through the form, you will notice that some questions have a red M beside them, which means that the questions are mandatory, and you will not be able to submit the form until you have answered all of these questions. As mentioned earlier, the first set of questions is about your organisation's detail. Please check to see that these are correctly stated in the portal. Question 2 in this section talks about whether or not your organisation is an Aboriginal organisation. Once again, we want to know from all organisations whether they identify as an Aboriginal organisation or not. Followed by questions about the number and percentage of staff who are Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. This is the number of staff across the whole organisation and not just at the contract level services that you deliver. We then come down to the financial accountability section. This is the same as last year. The first question we're going to ask you is, what's your organisation's financial year end date? Because this will then tell us when your financial accountability document at a corporate level is due. Your corporate level accountability documents are due 4 months after your financial year end date. The next question is question 7. Throughout this document, you'll actually see that there are some questions missing by the numbering, and this will be determined by the way you answer the questions. For example, if you answer yes for question 7, once you tick in the box, you will notice that another series of questions appear. The template was created this way so you don't get confused and that you only answer questions that you're required to answer. For question 12, you will need to upload a full organisation level audited financial statement. If you're not required by law to have your financial statements audited, you will be required to upload an unaudited financial statement, such as a balance sheet and an income and expenditure statement. All of the information about this is in the guide that was mentioned before. So it's important you actually go back to the guide to see what kind of documents you will need to upload here. Once you've uploaded that document, you'll be able to answer question 13. The information required of this question is directly from your balance sheet. So please make sure that the information such as the total assets or the total revenue, etc., matches what's on your balance sheet that you have uploaded in the previous question. For the last question under the financial section, we want to know if your financial statements include any amounts of our funds that have been paid in advance, or if there's unspent funds from previous financial years. If you answer yes to this question, we will be asking you for more information such as what contract it relates to, for which financial year, and whether or not consent had been provided by DCJ to keep these funds. This year, you will also be asked focus questions relating to information security. Finally, you will be required to complete a service provider declaration. We've included a link to the actual form itself so that you will be able to download this form, have it signed by 2 authorised signatories, and then upload it here where it says attachments. Once you've completed all the questions, and in particular those questions with a red M, you can click on the Ready to Submit button, which will allow you to then submit the document to us. At any stage, you can also save your template and come back to it at a later stage. And you can print your form to present to your board or management committee before you submit the documents to us. That's the end of the corporate level document. I'll now take you through the contract level account acquittal template that is required to be completed for each contract you have with the department under the funding deed or a human services agreement for the 21-22 financial year. Before we go into detail, all information covered here is included in the service provider guide we have published on our website. There aren't many changes from the previous year this time around. The screen you're seeing currently is what you'll see when you log in for your contract. The first section is about the contract itself. All information in this section has been pre-populated for you. Before you continue, I suggest you check and ensure the information you have to complete to the template relates to this contract. The key item to note here is that the annual funding amount would determine the level of information required for the completion. Where the annual funding is less than $25,000, you will only need to complete the annual accountability certification and a additional information section. However, where the funding is more than $25,000, you will need to click yes, and the system will populate other sections required for completion. The next section is on contract-related income. Item 1 will be pre-populated for you, so you are not required to enter information here. The amount pre-populated will include all contract-related payments such as SAC-CRO, indexation, one-off payments, and any COVID-19 support payments from DCJ. Please note that this cell is locked and cannot be changed by anyone in DCJ or by the provider. Now, for any reason, if you're unable to reconcile your reports to this annual funding amount, we can provide you with a detailed payment report that you can use to reconcile. Should you need that, please contact your contract manager. Item 2 is about carried forward unspent funds from the previous financial year. To carry forward prior year unspent funds, you must have written consent from us for unspent funds over $250 or where the contract allows you to do so, for example, the Permanency Support Program contracts. Where the unspent funds is $250 or less, then please record the amount of this item. In this case, you don't require any consent. If you still have unspent funds from prior years of more than $250 and don't have written consent, carry forward then the unspent amount would remain in your organisational balance sheet and will require reporting to DCJ through the corporate level annual accountability report via item 14 of the portal, which was discussed earlier. Moving on. Item 3 relates to any adjustment we may have made to current year funding to recoup prior year unspent funding. If we have adjusted your current year payment, then you need to enter the adjusted amount at this item. If you're unsure, then please contact your contract manager and they will be able to assist you. This will include any unspent funds that were withheld from your payments during the year. Once the payment has been adjusted, the unspent funds amount that you had would have been used in the current financial year for program outcomes. This adjustment essentially brings back the total funding the department would have paid if the adjustment was not processed. Please note that if you have returned any prior year unspent funds via cheque or direct debit, then those amounts should not be included in this item. Item 4. Item 4 was introduced last year and relates to payments made in advance in previous financial years for service delivery in this financial year. So where you received a payment in advance in a prior year, you need to carry forward that amount by recording the amount at this item. For those of you who had entered a negative figure in item 8, i.e. adjustment for income or payments in advance last year, you should include the same amount here as a positive sum. Item 5 relates to the interest earned on DCJ funds relating to this contract. We understand that some providers may face some difficulties in allocating interest earned on DCJ funds. However, our only expectation is that providers apply some reasonableness when allocating interest earned, considering the amount of funding given. We have noted some providers use a pro rata method based on total funding, and that's fine with us. Item 6 is about proceeds from the sale of DCJ funded assets. Please note there is slight departure from accrual and cash accounting here. Your program income and expenditure statement may include gain or loss on the sale of the DCJ funded asset. However, we are only interested in the actual proceeds less any cost of sale. The key point to note here is that proceeds from sale amount, which would be very different to any gain on the sale recorded in your program income and expenditure statement. If you are unsure, please seek assistance from your finance department or bookkeeper to determine what amount should be included here. Item 7 is when you would include all other contract-related income you received or may receive from DCJ relating to this contract. So payments such as alternative care arrangements, child transition payments, any accrued income, that is income yet to be received but relates to the previous financial year. The idea is to match the income yet to be received with the expenses already incurred and being disclosed this year. We note that similar adjustments may be required in the following financial years when you actually receive the income or payment. The amount that you would be entering at this item would be the total of any contract income amount. To assist us, I suggest you include a short breakdown of the items being included in the total in the notes section so we can understand what's included. Alternatively, you can include a short reference to your INES statement. Now, there could be some income items appearing on your program income and expenditure statement that may not require disclosure in our portal. Items such as any non-DCJ funding, for example, donations, client contributions, etc., is not required to be included here. The other key thing to note is when you exclude non-DCJ funds, you should also exclude any related expenses from the form. Also, if you received any of the federal government COVID-19 incentives or payments, then please do not include them in this form. Item 8 was introduced last year as well, and it relates to any income or payments made in advance in the current year or previous financial years, but relates to the following financial year. The advance payment would already be formed part of either item 1 or 4 above that would require adjustment. To process the adjustment, you must enter the advance payment amount that relates to the following financial year as a negative. It is very important that you enter the amount as a negative. In the following financial year, this advance payment would be included in item 4 in the income section. You do not need to include this amount anywhere else in the current financial year acquittal template. Because of the slight departure from accrual to cash accounting and non-DCJ related income, total income as per this form may not reconcile to total income in your program income and expenditure statement. For example, your income and expenditure statement may contain other income received for this contract, such as donations or other community grants, which support the delivery of services under the contract. These amounts are not shown on the form as we are only looking at DCJ funding. The next section is about contract-related expenses. We have made a slight change in terms of the general classification of contract expenses into direct and indirect costs. The Service Provider Guide on our website provides detailed information on this. I suggest you refer to that when completing this form items. Item 9 is where you would include any salary and wages directly related to providing contracted service. This would include any casual and or part-time direct staff. Item 10 is where you would include all other direct employment related costs such as employee entitlements, training, workers' compensation, payroll tax, etc. that relate to staff directly connected to providing the actual contracted services. Item 11 is where you would include all other direct expenses incurred in providing the contracted service. For example, client costs, program costs, subcontracting, or any other expenditure occurred that was directly connected to providing the contracted services. Again, I would suggest that you refer to the guide on our website if you require further information. Item 12 is where you would include all indirect contract-related costs, such as fixed or variable overheads, administration cost, insurance, audit fees, or any other costs incurred that was not directly connected to providing the contracted services. Please note that we have previously refined our guide on administration and management fees. The previous guide had created some confusion and gave an impression that an additional fee can be charged on top of the other expenses, which was not correct. I suggest you refer to the updated guide on our website. Some key points to note on the administration costs are where you are using a percentage method to allocate corporate overheads to program costs. The percentage must be reasonable and justified, that is reflective of the actual costs. We note that there could be minor variances when using this method. However, we don't expect the variances to be large. Accordingly, we expect providers to regularly monitor and review the percentage being used so it's current and reflective of the actual costs incurred. Please note the arrangement requires you to maintain proper records and provide the same to DCJ if requested. Item 13 is where you would report actual cost of any purchased asset using DCJ contract funds. Again, a slight departure from accrual accounting, as purchase amount would not be included in your program income and expenditure statement, however in the organisation balance sheet. Item 14 is where you would include any expenditure that you would unable to include in any of the above sections. We don't expect you to have any expenses here, however, we have kept this option open. If you do not enter an amount at this item, I suggest you include detailed breakdown at the same in the notes section. Surplus. Please note that this is the amount may not necessarily reconcile with the program income and expenditure that you attach due to slight departure from actual to a cash accounting, as I mentioned earlier. This is auto-populated based on the total income and the total expenditure. It cannot be adjusted. Reconciliation of unspent funds. This section provides further breakdown of unspent funds, if there are any. You will only need to complete this section if you have reported unspent funds above. Please note that the total unspent funds under this section must reconcile with the total unspent funds above. Item 15 is where you would include the current year unspent funds that was approved to be carried forward to the following financial year. You must have a written consent or approval from DCJ to carry forward current year unspent funds. The consent or approval would have been provided in the previous financial year. Moving on to item 16. Item 16 is where you would include current year unspent funds to be carried forward that was less than $250 and does not require recruitment, or where the consent or approval was provided after the end of financial year, or where the DCJ published guides allow you to carry forward COVID-19 unspent funds, or where the contract allows carry forward, e.g. PSP contracts. Item 17 would be with the resulting balance of unspent funds. This would be the amount DCJ would be recouping from your next contracting payment where possible. Your contract manager will advise you of its timing, including method of recruitment. Should you face any cash flow issues due to the above, please discuss this with your contract manager. We may be able to split the recoupment or delay it. The next section is where you would attach a certified copy of your contract income and expenditure statement. Note that it must be signed by 2 authorised signatures unless it is an audited income and expenditure statement. This ensures that the approved contract income and expenditure statement is being uploaded here. Key items to note here. Please ensure that the contract income and expenditure statement being uploaded or attached is sufficiently detailed for us to understand how contract funds were spent during the financial year. If you're unsure, then you may refer to our sample income and expenditure statement template included in the help section of this portal or on our website. When transcribing the information from your contract income and expenditure statement to the template form, it's helpful if you're able to reference the DCJ income and expenditure on your income and expenditure statement, so we can easily trace this information to the template form. You can simply write portal reference numbers beside each income or expense item. The level of detail and reference would save both the department and your time. This would avoid us coming back to you asking for the same information. The next section is about the annual accountability certification. It includes a template in a Word version that you can download. Once signed by 2 authorised signatures, please attach the same to the form. I'll now hand you back to David to talk about declaration and certification.
Thanks, Heather. As I mentioned earlier, as part of your submission, you're required to fill in, sign and upload the service provider declaration for corporate level accountability and the annual accountability certification for contract level accountability. The declaration, which is on the screen at present, is used to confirm that your organisation complies with its ongoing responsibilities and contractual obligations and has submitted all annual accountability information and documents requested by us, and that they're true and correct. This year we've added a new paragraph. For your reference, this is 3E. It declares that your organisation complies with the DCJ policy for maintaining secure information and notifying us of information security incidents. I said previously that this is required for reporting to the New South Wales Government that the Department and its service providers adhere to information security legislation. The annual accountability certification for contract level accountability is used to certify that your organisation met its financial responsibilities and its contractual obligations for the reported financial year. This includes that you provided services as agreed in the contract, complied with all relevant activities and performance requirements, and achieved the results required, have the ability to repay any unspent funds if required, collected and provided the data and information required, and it's true and correct. Because the declaration and the certification are a recommitment to the provisions of the contract, an important paragraph in both documents is the exceptions. This enables you to identify any reasons and circumstances your organisation is unable to meet the provisions of any of the other paragraphs. For example, the certification, paragraph 3C, states your organisations achieved the results for the agreed service activities. If for some reason you weren't able to achieve the results, list that in the exceptions. To do that, you need to identify the paragraph, what the exception is, and the reason for the exception. Finally, please make sure that you use the correct signature block. Your organisation will most likely use the first one. There are a couple of exceptions, like councils, and in cases of signatories who have power of attorney, in which case use the second signature block and add the appropriate stamp. If you're not sure which to use, send an email to the Comms NGO support mailbox. And remember, it's your organisation's responsibility to ensure only authorised signatories have signed off on the declaration and the certificate. Now I'll pass you back to Aleri.
Thanks, David. And thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope you found it valuable. You can send any questions to the Partner Support mailbox using the email address on your screen. We'll answer your questions via email. And as I said earlier, depending on the number and nature of questions we receive, we may add them to the FAQs we've already published on our website. And if we do, we'll let you know. And you can send any questions about the portal or the forms to the Comms NGO support mailbox. All these contact details are on our website as well. And remember, in the first instance, always ask your DCJ contract manager. Now that you're aware of the resources available to assist you with your annual accountability reporting, I recommend you make use of them, even if you've done the process before. You can lodge your submissions at any time before 31st of October, and you don't have to wait until the last minute. Thanks for watching, and thank you for everything you're doing to support clients in the community.